Hello, welcome to Sleepy Biology. Tonight, let's take a quiet journey inside your own body. A journey that begins with something very ordinary, yet unfolds into something wonderfully complex. Imagine holding a warm mug of milk or a soft scoop of ice cream beginning to melt on your tongue. In that moment, thousands of tiny molecules begin their adventure. The main character in this story is one small sugar, lactose. As you take that first sip, the milk glides down your throat. It carries with it a world of chemistry, proteins, fats, minerals, and our gentle traveler, lactose. Picture lactose not as a word, but as a shape, a molecule with two rounded halves joined by a delicate bridge. One half is called glucose, the other galactose, and together they hold hands through a tiny chemical link known as a beta-1,4 glycosidic bond. If you could see it, it might look like two snowflakes fused at the edges, quietly spinning in the warm light of your body. This bond is sturdy, not easily broken by water or heat. It waits for a special helper, an enzyme that knows exactly how to separate those two halves so they can continue their journey. That helper's name is lactase. Traveling downward, the lactose molecule drifts through the stomach, swirling in a sea of gentle acid and movement. Here, little changes happen. Proteins unwind, fats separate, but lactose remains mostly untouched. It passes onward, through the narrow opening leading to the small intestine. This is where the real story begins. The small intestine is not small at all. If you could unfold its surface, it would stretch across the floor of a room. Every millimeter is lined with folds, and every fold is covered with tiny finger-like villi, and each villus is coated with microscopic hairs called microvilli. All of these folds create an enormous landscape, a rolling meadow of cells, each one alive with quiet activity. Somewhere among those countless cells are the ones that make lactase. They sit patiently, attached to the brush border surface of the intestine, waiting for lactose to arrive. Let's zoom closer, slowly, as if we're floating down toward one of these cells. The surface glimmers with a thin layer of fluid. Embedded within are tiny protein shapes, enzymes. Among them, the lactase enzyme waits. It looks almost like a curled ribbon, folded over itself again and again, until a small pocket forms in the middle, its active site. Every enzyme in your body has an active site, a region sculpted perfectly to recognize its partner molecule. Lactase is designed to meet lactose. No other sugar will fit quite the same way. When lactose drifts near, the enzyme draws it in with faint molecular forces, a magnetic whisper. The sugar nestles into the pocket, and for a fraction of a second, time seems to pause. Then, with a tiny rearrangement of atoms, the bond between glucose and galactose loosens and breaks. Two smaller sugars emerge, free to be absorbed into the bloodstream. No sound, no flash, just chemistry, quietly doing its work. Now imagine millions of these events happening all at once along the lining of your intestine. Each molecule of lactose meets an enzyme. Each bond is cleaved, each sugar released. The process is continuous, gentle, rhythmic, like waves lapping on a shore. This is how your body handles lactose when everything is in harmony, an elegant choreography of molecules. From here, the freed glucose and galactose will be carried through microscopic transporters that move them across the cell membrane and into tiny blood vessels called capillaries. But let's stay for a moment in this quiet world, where enzymes do their work patiently. If we could shrink ourselves even smaller, we'd see that every enzyme is just a long chain of amino acids, folded into a precise 3D form. That form is maintained by invisible attractions, hydrogen bonds, van der Waals forces, electrostatic whispers, all holding the protein in its perfect shape. Should the environment change, temperature, acidity, concentration, the shape could loosen or tighten slightly, and the dance would slow. Yet under ordinary conditions, everything stays beautifully balanced. Inside each intestinal cell lies a blueprint, a stretch of DNA called the LCT gene. It carries the instructions to build lactase. When the body needs more enzymes, the cell reads this gene like a recipe. Tiny molecular machines copy its information into RNA, and from that, build new proteins. This happens quietly and constantly. No fanfare, no rush. Your cells simply know what to do, guided by evolution's long memory. In some people, the production of lactase continues steadily throughout life. In others, it slows down after childhood. That difference is part of humanity's natural diversity, woven into our genes long ago, when ancestors began herding animals and drinking milk. But tonight, we won't measure or compare. We'll simply observe the beauty of variation itself. As glucose and galactose slip through the cell membranes, they join the slow current of your bloodstream. They'll travel to the liver, where they may be used for gentle energy release, a quiet spark that keeps you warm as you rest. Every heartbeat moves them onward, and somewhere far above, you're lying still, breathing evenly, while all this unfolds below awareness. The body never sleeps entirely. Even as the mind drifts, cells continue their soft routines, enzymes turning, bonds breaking, molecules drifting. Somewhere inside you, a molecule of lactose has just met its enzyme. The bridge between glucose and galactose has opened. Two simple sugars are now free, ready to flow onward in peace. This happens again and again and again, millions of times a day, without sound, without effort. That is the beauty of biology. It never demands attention. It simply exists, quietly keeping life in motion. Let's drift a little farther now. We're still inside the winding passages of your small intestine, and everything glows with a faint warmth, soft light reflecting off folds and curves that seem to stretch endlessly. If we could walk here, each step would land on a carpet of microscopic villi, millions of tiny fingers swaying gently in the current. Every villus is alive with cells, and each cell holds the wisdom of chemistry older than humanity itself. The air is replaced by fluid, a thin film moving lazily across every surface. In that film float countless molecules, amino acids, sugars, ions, water, all gliding together like stars drifting through space. Among them still travel traces of lactose, some already split into their smaller halves, others still waiting their turn. Every moment, more meet the calm touch of lactase. Come closer, even smaller now. Imagine standing on the membrane of a single intestinal cell. It's not flat, it's a field of soft grass, each blade a microvillus waving in the invisible current. Between the blades sit the lactase enzymes. They hold their shape patiently, each one a quiet worker devoted to a single task. When lactose arrives, it drifts into the enzyme's arms. The enzyme embraces it, turns it, and in an instant, still slower than a heartbeat, the molecule divides. The pieces, glucose and galactose, slip away downstream, leaving the enzyme unchanged and ready to work again. This is catalysis, an endless rhythm of action and release, without exhaustion, without noise. Now the newly freed sugars reach transporters, tiny passageways built into the cell wall. Think of them as revolving doors. When a molecule touches one side, the transporter turns, and the sugar appears on the other side, inside the cell. Within, it meets a calm, watery space. Here, everything has purpose. Some of the glucose is stored briefly as glycogen, tiny chains curling like resting vines. Some passes onward into the bloodstream, becoming part of the body's quiet energy supply. Energy in biology is not a spark, it's a whisper. It is potential waiting to be used, a gentle hum inside every cell. Every mammal performs this same process, from whales to mice, from newborns to grown adults. Lactose enters, lactase acts, sugars flow. In some species, this continues for a lifetime. In others, lactase fades after infancy, as though the body, having learned to survive without milk, turns its focus to other foods. For humans, the story is mixed. Our ancestors, spread across wide continents, lived many different ways. In some places, people learned to keep animals for milk, and those who could digest lactose gained a small advantage, a quiet resilience during long winters or dry seasons. Over generations, the ability to keep producing lactase became more common there. Elsewhere, it faded, not as a flaw, but as a reflection of environment and need. Nature writes no judgments, only variations. And so, across humanity, some people carry genes that keep lactase active, while others let it rest. Both are normal, both part of the same grand design. Return now to the tiny cells along the intestinal wall. Inside, a steady orchestra of molecular activity continues. DNA coils gently in the nucleus, its letters forming the long story of your ancestry. Among them lies the LCT gene, the set of instructions for building lactase. When the body decides it needs more of the enzyme, it opens that part of the DNA, copies a message onto a strand of RNA, and sends it outward into the cell. Ribosomes, tiny molecular factories, read the code and join amino acids together one by one, forming a long chain that folds into the familiar shape of lactase. It's a process that feels almost alive, though it happens without thought. The cell simply knows, because knowing is built into its structure. Older enzymes eventually drift away, broken down into their building blocks so that new ones can take their place. The balance between creation and breakdown is perfect and quiet, like breathing. Every few hours, new enzymes appear, fresh and folded, ready to continue their work. No commands are spoken, no consciousness directs it. This is what life means at its smallest level. Patterns repeating in harmony. Let's rise slowly from the microscopic scale, back through the surface of the intestine, past the flowing fluid and the moving muscles. The body as a whole remains peaceful. Outside, the person might be reading, or perhaps already asleep. Within, millions of enzymes continue their rhythm, turning lactose into simpler sugars, feeding gentle energy into the bloodstream. There is no conflict here, no sense of effort. Everything follows chemistry's quiet laws. When we think about the word intolerance, we often imagine discomfort or limitation. But inside the body, there is no such label. There is only variation, genes expressing, enzymes folding, levels rising and falling like tides. The science of lactose is not a story of what's wrong, but a reminder of how intricately each person's body adapts to the paths their ancestors walked. Tonight, we're not comparing. We're only observing the slow, peaceful ballet of molecules, each doing exactly what it's meant to do, each motion soft as breath. And now, we let the scene dissolve into calm darkness. In the next movement, we'll follow the sugars as they journey deeper into the bloodstream and learn how the body uses them with effortless precision. Let's pick up our quiet story again. The sugars that once floated through the small intestine have now crossed the thin walls of the cells and entered the slow current of the bloodstream. Imagine yourself following them. You are tiny, smaller than a cell, drifting through a gentle river of plasma. It is warm, golden, and full of life. Around you glide red blood cells, perfect discs carrying oxygen like silent boats. Between them move the newly freed glucose and galactose molecules, each one beginning its next chapter. The blood flows in rhythmic waves, pushed softly by the heartbeat above. It doesn't rush, it simply moves, carrying everything that each cell will soon need. The first great harbor they reach is the liver, a vast, quiet factory of chemistry. From the outside, it seems solid, but inside, it is full of branching channels and millions of patient cells called hepatocytes. Here, glucose and galactose are welcomed, sorted, and gently transformed. Some are stored away as glycogen, rolled into microscopic spirals that wait like packed snow for colder times. Others are released back into the blood, ready to provide calm energy wherever it is needed. Each transformation happens quietly, an elegant conversation of enzymes. No explosions, no heat, no light, only rearranged atoms and silent equilibrium. When we speak of energy in biology, we often imagine motion, brightness, or force. But inside you, energy is subtle. It is the potential stored in chemical bonds, waiting to be released when the body whispers, "Now." Every cell can take a molecule of glucose and through a series of graceful steps, convert it into ATP, tiny packets of energy currency. In the soft darkness of your tissues, these reactions unfold constantly. Glucose enters, enzymes guide it, and out comes warmth, thought, movement, and the rhythm of life itself. The galactose molecule follows a similar, though slightly more winding, path. The liver quietly converts it into glucose so that both sugars can share the same destiny. There is a comforting symmetry in that. Two halves of one original sugar, reunited through chemistry, serving the same gentle purpose. If you could step back now and see the entire body, you would witness a silent symphony. In muscles, glucose provides slow, steady strength. In the brain, it fuels thought, tiny sparks flickering across neurons as you dream or rest. Every organ takes just what it needs, no more, no less. When the supply is abundant, the body stores the excess. When the supply runs low, it quietly releases what it kept. Balance, always balance. That is the principle written into every cell. Long before humans existed, life on Earth was already practicing this art. Primitive organisms learned to break down sugars to survive the changing world around them. Over countless generations, enzymes evolved to become more precise, more efficient, until the dance of lactose and lactase became as natural as breathing. Each adaptation was a soft note in the long melody of evolution. And now, inside you, those same melodies still play, refined through time, as your cells continue the same gentle chemistry. Within your DNA lies not only the recipe for lactase, but also the instructions controlling when and how long that recipe is used. Some people's genetic switches keep the lactase gene active into adulthood. Others allow it to fade after childhood, a quiet change written in the code of life. Neither is better. Both are natural. They are simply reflections of how human populations adapted to the foods available to them. Think of it as evolution's quiet experiment, carried out across millennia with no judgment, only variation. Across the planet, this difference became a map of ancestry. Where milk and dairy were common, the ability to digest lactose persisted. Where other foods provided nourishment, the gene rested. Today, that diversity still lives within us. A reminder that there is no single design for humanity. Each person's biology tells a slightly different story, yet all follow the same underlying harmony. Let's come back now to the sugars still drifting in the blood. They pass through capillaries, tiny tunnels narrower than a hair. Each time they brush against a cell that needs them, special transporters open like doors, and the molecules slip inside. Inside the cell, the glucose enters a gentle spiral of reactions. Atoms rearrange, electrons flow, and ATP appears, soft, invisible sparks of usable energy. That energy keeps you alive, but it doesn't shout its presence. It hums quietly through every heartbeat, every breath, every dream. Even now, as you lie still, millions of these processes continue. They don't need supervision. They don't need awareness. They are self-sustaining, guided only by chemistry and time. Lactose, lactase, glucose, ATP. Names we give to patterns of atoms so that we can talk about them. But the real beauty lies in the way they fit together without names, without thought, like waves or wind or sleep. Imagine zooming outward again, past the bloodstream, past the organs, until you can see the whole human body resting beneath blankets or stars. Inside, a universe of movement continues. Every molecule you've met in this story is still there, still flowing, still part of the quiet choreography of life. The process never truly ends. It only slows when the body itself rests. As you listen, perhaps you can feel your own breathing match the rhythm of this chemistry. Inhale, exhale, intake, release. Each breath brings oxygen that will meet the sugars you just imagined. Together, they'll power another heartbeat, another slow exhale. And somewhere within that cycle, the story of lactose and lactase continues. Small, precise, eternal. Now we approach the final part of our journey, where all these elements, sugars, enzymes, energy, come together in a gentle harmony. In the closing chapter, we'll reflect on how balance and variation make every living thing unique, and we'll let the story fade quietly into sleep. Let's return once more to that quiet inner world. The sugars that began their long journey in a single sip of milk have now spread through the body's rivers of blood, feeding countless cells in silence. Outside, the room around you is still. The light has dimmed, and somewhere deep within, your metabolism keeps time with the rhythm of your breath. If you could see inside yourself right now, you'd witness an endless pattern. Energy moving, resting, moving again. Glucose entering a cell, oxygen meeting it. A tiny burst of warmth appearing, then fading into calm equilibrium. Each of these reactions is invisible, yet together they form the gentle hum that sustains you. This is what life truly is. A balance of opposites, creation and release, movement and stillness. From far away, a human body seems motionless, but at the microscopic level, there's choreography everywhere. Molecules drift like dust in sunlight, bumping, binding, parting. Proteins fold and unfold like petals. Membranes open and close. Everywhere, equilibrium breathes. And though we speak of lactose and lactase, they are only one melody among millions, a single thread woven into the grand fabric of metabolism. In the next few hours, many of the glucose molecules born from lactose will finish their task and transform again. perhaps into carbon dioxide, perhaps into new molecules for growth or repair. Nothing in the body is truly wasted. Everything circles back, transformed but never lost. Even the breath you exhale will carry away atoms that once belonged to your last meal, and those atoms will drift into the air and one day return to another form of life. It's a comforting thought that every process, no matter how small, connects you to the entire world. It's a comforting thought that every process, no matter how small, connects you to the entire world. Every atom, every molecule is shared between forms of life again and again. The oxygen in your breath, the carbon in your cells, and the hydrogen in every drop of water. They have all been used before and will be used again. The lactose we followed tonight is part of that same exchange. It began in a blade of grass, assembled by sunlight and soil, and passed through an animal, through milk, and now through you. Nothing in nature is wasted. Everything moves in cycles. That is the quiet genius of biology. Nothing ends. It only transforms. Let's travel backward for a moment. Imagine a wide, open meadow, soft with green grass swaying in the wind. Each blade is alive with sunlight, absorbing carbon dioxide from the air and pulling water from the ground. Inside the leaf, tiny chloroplasts capture that sunlight and use it to build sugars like glucose. Those sugars travel down the stem, feeding the growing plant. When a grazing animal eats that grass, those plant sugars are broken down and used to make new molecules, muscle, fat, and milk. Inside the animal's body, some of that glucose is reshaped into lactose, a sugar perfectly suited for nourishing its young. And when milk is formed, it carries more than just nutrition. It carries a record of that entire cycle. Sunlight turned into sugar, grass turned into energy, life feeding life. So when you drink milk, you're not just consuming food. You're continuing a pattern that began in sunlight and traveled through generations of living things. Among all the molecules in milk, lactose has a special role. It provides a steady, balanced source of energy, not too quick, not too slow. That's because lactose releases its sugars gradually, only when the right enzyme, lactase, appears. It's like a time-locked vault of nourishment, opened only when the body is ready. This gentle rhythm is especially suited to infants, whose bodies are still learning how to regulate energy. In a way, lactose was nature's first slow-release fuel. It taught early mammals how to balance supply and need. That same principle, controlled release, steady energy, still guides the chemistry of your cells today. Let's follow one molecule of glucose after it enters a cell. The cell greets it like an old friend. Tiny gates in the membrane open, and the glucose slips inside. In the quiet space of the cytoplasm, enzymes begin their patient work. They split the molecules step by step, releasing small packets of energy. This process has a name, glycolysis, but you don't need to remember it. Just picture it as a series of tiny lights flashing softly in sequence. Each flash releases a little warmth, a little energy, a little motion. That energy is stored in another molecule called ATP, the universal battery of life. ATP powers nearly everything: the beating of your heart, the firing of neurons, the slow renewal of cells as you sleep. Every second, billions of ATP molecules are created and used and created again. It's not loud or dramatic. It's silent, efficient, perfectly timed. Your body is a city of light. Each cell a quiet factory, each enzyme a dedicated worker. Even as you lie still, that work never stops. While your cells handle the fine details, your organs manage the bigger picture. Your liver watches over sugar levels in the blood, releasing a little when energy dips, storing some when it rises. Your pancreas helps by sending gentle messages, hormones that tell other tissues when to absorb and when to wait. Your muscles serve as reservoirs, storing glycogen like coiled springs of energy, ready to release it when you move again. Your brain, meanwhile, uses a constant flow of glucose to maintain its quiet background activity, the soft rhythm of thought, memory, and dream. Each part of the body knows what to do without instruction. No single cell sees the full plan, but together they create balance. That's the miracle of biology. Cooperation without awareness, harmony without command. The lactase enzyme that began our story is part of a much larger family, the glycositoses. These enzymes have existed for hundreds of millions of years. They evolved in early life forms long before mammals appeared, helping ancient organisms break down the complex sugars around them. Through countless generations, those enzymes were copied, altered, and specialized, until one of them became the lactase you have now. It's astonishing to think that a molecule in your intestine today has a direct lineage stretching back to single-celled life in the ocean. That's what evolution really is. Not random change, but patient refinement. Every shape, every fold of lactase was tested by time until it fit its purpose perfectly. When mammals first appeared on Earth, their survival depended on nurturing the young. Milk became a quiet innovation, a way to share energy and protection from one generation to the next. Lactose was a part of that invention. It wasn't the first sugar in nature, but it was one of the most meaningful. It made milk different, gentler, slower to digest, a perfect energy source for developing bodies. From that moment on, lactose became a signature of mammals, a molecular promise that life would continue. Long before humans, before even the great mammals of today, early ancestors began producing a sugar from the simple materials already inside them. They used glucose, the same molecule found in almost all life, and linked it with another sugar called galactose. The result was lactose. This small innovation changed everything. It allowed mothers to provide nutrition in a portable, renewable form. Milk that nourished even when food was scarce. And as species evolved, lactose stayed because it worked so beautifully. It was not only food, it was connection. Even now, long after infancy, the legacy of lactose continues within you. The glucose released from its breakdown feeds not only muscles and organs, but also the mind. Your brain depends on glucose more than anything else. Each thought, each dream, each moment of imagination is powered by the same energy once held inside that tiny lactose molecule. In deep sleep, as neurons quietly recharge, they use that energy to restore balance, to organize memory, to prepare for waking life again. So even while you rest, lactose, or what it becomes, is still part of your thoughts. But not all bodies treat lactose the same way. Some continue to make lactase through adulthood. Others let the enzyme fade after childhood. In places where milk was plentiful, those who could digest it had a small advantage. In other regions where dairy was rare, the body simply turned its focus elsewhere. Neither path is wrong. Both are examples of how life adapts to circumstance. In a sense, your body's relationship with lactose is a record of your ancestry, a soft echo of the environments your ancestors once lived in. Every person carries that variation, written quietly in the DNA near the lactase gene. It's not a difference of ability, but of history. When someone who no longer produces much lactase drinks milk, something different happens inside. The lactose isn't split completely. Instead, it travels farther down the intestine, where new characters join the story, microbes. These microbes are not invaders, they are partners. They break down what we cannot, using fermentation to extract energy. In doing so, they release gases and acids, sometimes leading to discomfort, but also revealing how adaptable life is. Even when one process slows, another takes its place. The body, and the life within it, always finds a way to continue the cycle. The bacteria that meet lactose belong to a vast ecosystem inside you. The gut microbiome, billions of organisms living in quiet balance, is one of nature's most complex communities. They help digest, protect, and even communicate with your immune system. When they break down lactose, they turn it into simpler compounds, short-chain fatty acids that can still be used for energy. So even without lactase, lactose still contributes in another form through another partnership. Life adapts, always. The glucose and galactose that began as milk sugar don't disappear once they enter your cells. They move through cycles, oxidized, stored, rebuilt, released. In the liver, some become glycogen, coiled and waiting for future need. In the muscles, they keep fibers supple and ready. In the brain, they keep neurons alive and signaling. And as energy is spent, it's transformed again into water, carbon dioxide, warmth. Every breath you release tonight carries away a trace of the lactose you once consumed. The molecules that began as sweetness end their journey as air. A quiet exhale that joins the world again. The cycle of lactose mirrors the greater cycle of life itself. Creation, transformation, release. The sugars are made by plants, transferred through animals, digested by humans, and returned to the earth. It is chemistry as continuity, a shared process that keeps everything alive. When you think of lactose, you can think of it not just as a nutrient, but as a small link in the vast loop of biological balance. Within your body, this balance extends beyond digestion. The same signals that tell cells to make lactase or to absorb sugar also help regulate mood, hunger, and rest. When your blood sugar rises, the pancreas whispers back with insulin, a gentle nudge toward equilibrium. When energy runs low, the liver releases what it saved. It's a dance of molecules, invisible yet precise. And through it all, the products of lactose metabolism move quietly through every organ, feeding the flow of life. Think again of the LCT gene, the one that makes lactase. It sits within a long stretch of DNA that humans share with many other mammals. In that same region of the genome lies evidence of adaptation, written over millennia. In some people, a single small change, a few letters in the genetic code, keeps lactase active through adulthood. That tiny variation shaped human history. It influenced migration, farming, and even survival in difficult environments. Every sip of milk today is a quiet reflection of those ancient shifts. It's easy to forget how closely energy and consciousness are linked. The glucose that came from lactose is what powers every nerve impulse, every heartbeat, every flicker of awareness. Even the calm you feel right now is supported by that energy, steady, warm, sustaining. Without sugars, the mind grows cloudy. With balance, it flows with clarity. The molecules we've followed tonight don't just feed cells. They fuel perception, memory, emotion, the essence of being alive. As you rest, your body enters a quieter phase of work. Insulin levels drop, breathing slows, and the rhythm of energy changes. Some cells continue to burn glucose, keeping your core temperature steady. Others switch to maintenance, repairing DNA, recycling proteins, clearing waste. The energy for all of this still comes, in part, from the sugars once derived from lactose. It's remarkable how a sip of milk hours ago can fuel the repair of a cell while you sleep. During these hours of calm, your intestines rest too. They repair their lining, renew the enzymes that worked so patiently. New lactase molecules are folded and set in place, ready for tomorrow's meal. Each one is made perfectly, atom by atom, following the same instructions that evolution refined over eons. No effort is wasted, no motion unnecessary. Even in sleep, life prepares for the next beginning. Across species, across time, this story repeats. A newborn feeds, lactose nourishes, enzymes act, energy flows, growth follows. The same chemical script has played for more than 200 million years. You carry it within you, the pattern of nourishment, the legacy of every mammal that came before. Even if you never drink milk again, the story remains in your DNA, in the silent code that once told your cells how to make lactase. There is something tender about this molecular story. Lactose is more than food. It's a form of care, a message written in sugar, sent from one body to another. It says, grow, heal, continue. That message echoes through you tonight, in every cell using the energy it gave, in every breath releasing what remains, in every slow, steady heartbeat. You are part of that message. If you could see yourself now, the flow of blood, the quiet folding of proteins, the endless turning of enzymes, you would see perfect balance. Even when you feel still, you are full of motion. Even in rest, you are alive with transformation. The lactose that began this story has finished its role. Its atoms now drift through new forms, joining other cycles, becoming new energy, new warmth. And the enzymes, those patient helpers, wait again in the intestine, ready for the next meal, the next quiet beginning. The same lactose that nourishes you nourishes countless other species. It connects mammals through time and biology. Whales, cats, deer, humans, all shaped by the same sugar, all sharing the same chemistry of care. That's the quiet unity of life. Different bodies, one design. When you think of lactose, you can think of that, not as a nutrient, but as a shared signature of being alive. Now, let everything slow. Your breathing steady and smooth, your thoughts soft and wandering, your body still but alive. Inside, the last traces of lactose have completed their journey. The sugars are gone, but the energy remains, woven into the warmth you feel, the calm that surrounds you. Biology continues, silent and sure, never rushing, never sleeping fully. You don't have to do anything. You don't even have to remember. Your body knows what to do. It always has. Let that be enough. The story of lactose, from milk to molecule to energy, is really a story about you, how every part of your being is connected to everything else. You are the continuation of an ancient rhythm, the quiet chemistry of life itself. And now, as that chemistry slows, as your thoughts drift into stillness, you can let go. Let the enzymes rest. Let the sugars dissolve. Let your body return to balance. Everything inside you is already at peace. Good night from Sleepy Biology.